Yes, I am streaming off Linux. I am streaming off Arch Linux. What is it? Free fetch? Oh, fetch. Fast fetch. There we go. Of course, I cannot start a stream without mentioning that I'm running Arch Linux. So now that this is out of the way, now we can say that we are started officially. Cool. Before I start, just start pouring the questions in the chat. In the meantime, I will share a couple of things in the news that I found interesting today while the questions are coming in. So an interesting thing that happened today is that MinIO is no longer providing Docker images. So if you don't know what MinIO is, this is basically a self-hosted S3 bucket provider. I mean, it's used as self-hosted. It is used very much in enterprise, of course, but in the home labbing circles, self-hosting circles, this is often used to create your own S3 buckets and storage. And this is no longer providing free Docker images. So this is an interesting development. We see this more and more with open source projects closing down for the community, basically. They are not providing Docker images, but technically you can build the code yourself, and then you can create your own images and run it. So it's not that they're closing off the software. But we were discussing this in the community today, and Silman, he was actually saying, I use MinIO at my client, and they doubled their license prices, and removing UI features from the community dashboard version, they force you to get a paid version. So I thought this was an interesting bit of tech news to share. And you see this more and more with open source projects. It's a concerning trend, but it's wait, is there a problem with the sound? Sounds off every few seconds, or is it me? Is that true? It falls away every few seconds. Okay, hold on. There might be an issue with my sound here. In the meantime, just keep pouring in the questions, and I will go through the chat afterwards. So let's see. Help me debug my stream. Why would my audio be choppy? Sound is fine to me, says Jivan. Okay. Okay, so I'm hearing different messages about the sound. Sound is fine here. Okay. Thank you very much for confirming that. This is the streamer's worst nightmare, that the sound goes wrong. So thank you for confirming that. So yeah, again, that was an interesting piece of news where MinIO is basically locking down the open source version and force you to get a paid version. And I found this an interesting piece of news. You see this more and more, and it sparks an interesting debate where, I mean, I firmly believe that open source software creators should be paid for their work. I have no issues with open source projects charging for their software, and also limiting certain features of their software to paying customers. I think that's fair. However, with this, you're also losing quite a lot of trust with the community. And yeah, I think this is an interesting development, which you see more and more with these open source projects. There are a few alternatives being thrown around. One of them is Garage HQ. Garage, an open source distributed object storage service tailored for self-hosting. So I would personally not try MinIO anymore. I would go for Garage, or another one that the community has been sharing here is Seaweed FS. I haven't looked at all at this. I'm just literally doing this right now. So what is this? Seaweed FS? Independent Apache license open source project. Ongoing development. Let's see. Yes, lots of commits. And it's a simple and highly scalable distributed file system. Two objectives: store billions of files, serve files fast. Start as an object store to handle small files instead of managing file metadata. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So these are two alternatives for MinIO. So yeah, it depends whether these have Kubernetes operators or not. That would be interesting to dig into. But those are the two that are the main alternatives right now, I would say. So yeah, let me know in chat what you think about this. And also, just to note that the interesting part is that this was what we were discussing in the community today, and we instantly get people saying, "Oh, I'm using this at a client," or we are using this and that. So it's the power of community that really comes to here. Cool, cool. Getting some questions in the chat now. So I'm just gonna, before I get into the questions, I'm just gonna go through a couple of the platforms, see if everything is okay. Because I'm using Riverside to multi-stream, so I'm actually streaming on X right now. I'm doing this for the first time, so streaming on X, 71 people on X. Then we have, I'm also streaming on LinkedIn. I have no idea how that's gonna go. I have no idea if people actually join streams on LinkedIn. Let's see. Is the stream still going on LinkedIn or not? I just need to check this and then we can go live. Here we go, live event. Yes, it's actually going on LinkedIn. Oh, there's actually people chatting there too. That's interesting. Cool, cool. Well, that's working all fine, so that's fun to see. And finally, how many people do we have on YouTube? 61 people from YouTube. Cool. All right. Well, now we have a few people coming in. So first of all, if you're looking for a tech job, type 1 in the chat. If you're already a DevOps engineer, type 2 in the chat. Let me see where we're at today. Looking for a tech job, type 1 in the chat. You're already a DevOps engineer working with Kubernetes or something like that, type 2 in the chat. Let me get a sense of who we're talking to here. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2. Okay, it seems actually pretty even. 1 and 2. Oh, that's interesting, Jiva. So you're a DevOps engineer looking for a DevOps job. 1, 1, 1. I see a lot of 2s. That's always interesting to me that people who are already DevOps engineers watch my channel, that they would come for career mentoring too. I mean, I love it. It's good. I always love to get more perspectives, but it also shows that even when you are a DevOps engineer, there is always room for improvement. To software transitioning to DevOps. Okay, cool. All right. Well, guys, this session is for live career mentoring. So if you have any questions about getting a tech job, if you want to ask me about how I got my first job, or anything related to that, basically ask me anything. You can put any question in the chat, and I will just pick out the ones that I feel like answering. But if you have any other unrelated question, maybe about my history or something like that, feel free to ask. And let's just start. There were a few questions from before, so I will just start going through those. Misha, thanks to your channel, I started DevOps. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for saying that. That's cool to hear. Let's see here. Next. Okay. As a 20-year-old DevOps from India, let me see. Can I show it? Here. As a 23-year-old DevOps from India, I'm interested in opportunities in Europe. Are cloud DevOps security roles open to foreign candidates? And how can I improve my profile to get a job in the EU? They are generally open to outside candidates from outside of the EU, but generally, like, you can't just expect getting a job in the EU like that. I mean, if you want to work in the EU, you would definitely have to plan on moving to the EU as well. I see it's quite rare for people to land remote roles in the EU. There's not much of a culture for that in the EU specifically. So if you do want to move to the EU, I always recommend people to actually don't forget about learning DevOps and tech. What you actually should be learning is the language. You need to learn the language of the country where you wish to work in. And that's not just for the work's sake, but it's also about for your happiness sake. You see, I'll tell you a story. I lived in Norway for 9 years. So when I was 22 years old, I had just finished studying at university, and I packed everything I had in my car, and I drove to Norway, and I was going to basically start my life there. And I had already been traveling there a lot, and I had a Norwegian girlfriend for a couple of years. So I knew what it was like to be in Norway. And at that point, I already spoke Norwegian fluently because I had studied the language and I had a girlfriend, but I had taken university classes in Norwegian. So I spoke the language fluently when I moved there, and still I struggled to get a job in Norway. For the first 4 months, I applied, and it was very hard for me to get a job because they don't even I'm from a neighboring country, but they still don't like to hire foreigners, right? Even when I spoke the language. So my first job in Norway actually was in a freeze. What do you call this in English? So it was a warehouse for frozen goods. So it was like minus 20 Celsius degrees all day long. And I would show up and we had to put on these big suits like they would use on the North Pole. And then huge shipping containers would come. And I would have to unpack frozen meat from those containers and then carry that onto pallets and stack them onto pallets and calculate the weight and stuff. That was my first job in Norway. And I had a university degree at that point. And I even spoke the language. So if you want a job in a different country, like, don't start with tech and that kind of stuff. Start with the language. And you have to be extremely humble about this too. Like when I moved to Norway, my attitude was that I would clean toilets because living in that country was more important to me than anything else, than the work that I had to do for it. So that was my attitude towards this. This is how I approached it. And if you agree with that or not, I don't really care. But that is how I think you should approach it. Be humble. Make the moving to the country a priority, not the work. Let me see. What are indications that you're capable of taking on freelance work? what are prerequisites you would recommend before pursuing that? And how do you recommend finding freelance opportunities? Well, to be honest, like this stream is more geared towards beginners. I am working as a six-figure freelancer at the moment, and if you want to learn how to actually do that, how to get clients, and I'm happy to mentor you into this, but you'll have to join CubeCraft for that. This is not teachings that I give for free on live streams like this. You can't expect these kinds of questions to be answered live in streams like this. You have to gain access in order to get that kind of information. Let me see. Took your Kubernetes fundamentals. Currently taking the CKID Kubernetes Udemy course and then take the Home Lab course. Also, what's your advice monitoring course? Well, you're going after course after course after course, and that's great. But also remember to build projects here. And the best way to learn monitoring, in my opinion, is to basically, you already said you were going to build your home lab. So build your home lab and then start with the Prometheus stack, install that and build projects with that. And then there is the what is it called? The Prometheus operator certification by the CNCF. I haven't done that one. Not sure if you should get that one either. I would definitely focus on Grafana instead of Prometheus. Anything that can be done in Grafana, you should do in Grafana. Do you recommend prioritizing fluency in the language and polished communication skills? Yes, 100%. Fluency in the language is extremely important if your goal is to work in a different country than your own. That is definitely the way to do it. Focus on that first, and basically your attitude should be, if you want to live in a different country, that's the only thing that matters. The work that you do is second to that. With the recent AWS outage, do you think companies would prefer on-prem in the future? And thoughts on Oracle Cloud AI into DevOps? Interesting question. So yes, I am personally, in my own personal interests, I am leaning more and more towards open source, vendor agnostic, and on-prem kind of stuff. That is more. I'm leaning more and more towards that. And I say vendor agnostic. I mean, you can never really get away from vendors. Like I love Talos Linux, so that is Sidero, and yes, then you are, for example, then you are using a vendor, right? So, but it's open source, so it's different from tying yourself into Microsoft Azure or AWS, I would say, because still you're using Kubernetes as the platform, but the platform that you use to provision Kubernetes can be changed. So that is one way to approach it. This is why I go all in on Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is the platform. If you focus on that, if you build the Kubernetes skills, then it doesn't really matter where you work. So cloud infrastructure is going to be more and more commoditized. AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, it works so well that you just create it once and it auto updates, it auto manages itself, it auto scales, and you have the support for it. So like there isn't really much work to do there if you have that up and running. But it's freaking expensive. That is the counter of it. So I personally think that there's going to be more and more focus on on-prem. One issue with this, or one theme here, is that here in the Netherlands, we have a lot of our governments are using Microsoft Azure, right? And we do that because we have a data center of Microsoft here in the Netherlands. So that is how they are basically justifying to put all of their data in the data center, because the data center is at least in the Netherlands. However, that still means that the company that's managing that data is still an American company, right? And like I'm not 100% clear on the law, so please don't quote me on the law framework here. But it is my understanding that because it's an American company, then the American government has any right to decide, like if they have some sort of valid reason for it, that they can access that data, or that they could basically tell Microsoft, nope, you can't do business anymore in the Netherlands. Well, that means we are completely screwed if that happens. And this became a theme when Trump was elected and he started throwing around all these tariffs. Well, people were getting really nervous, like, oh my God, what is he going to do with the cloud infrastructure? Maybe he's going to say, yeah, Microsoft, you're not allowed to do business in the Netherlands anymore because they're not paying tariffs. We would be completely screwed. So all that to say is that here in Europe, there has been a lot more debate on European clouds, sovereign clouds, and that means basically um, on-prem. It means on-prem. Like maybe there is a like Dutch data centers if you're hosting it in Holland, but I think there's going to be more and more move back towards on-prem. Actually, I think that is going to be much more common. We had this big move to the cloud, then they raised the prices, and now it's like it depends on what you're running, of course. But if you're interested in data sovereignty, so having don't have any other companies have any control over your data, then on-prem is the way to go. Cool. Question from Leo. In paid CubeCraft, do you offer guidance only once you're ready to make projects and looking for a job, or also while completing the coursework? Thank you. Yes. So the way it works is you join. I can just share my screen here. Let me see. Entire screen. So you should be able to see my screen now. So the way it works, this is what I was saying, by the way, in the beginning, how, yeah, we were sharing some news about MinIO and instantly we got 12 people commenting and people sharing what clients are doing at work. So that is an interesting example of the community at work. So there is community posts all the time. But to your question, do you provide guidance along the way? We definitely do. So this is the current schedule. So on Mondays, I provide 2 Q&A calls. So those are calls where you join and you can ask me questions directly, just like this on a live stream. But then we are actually like you share your video, you have your microphone on, we're actually talking. So I'm actually coaching you during that call. That happens twice a week. Then my brother, he is doing career guidance coaching. And every Sunday we have a Linux workshop with Francisco, an expert sysadmin. So there's like three calls a week at the right now. That's going to be more in the future, where you get guidance. And secondly, if you look at my school profile, this is my heat map of my school profile, and I am in here every single day. So every day, my routine is that I will come in and I read all of the posts, I read all of the questions, and then very often I will answer those questions by text or I record private videos for you if it needs more explanation. So to answer your question, yes, there is definitely guidance along the way when you join the community. And it's not just me, it's also the community of other seniors and other experts that are helping you every single day. Where can I find your course syllabus? Where can I find the course membership fee? You go to cubecraft.dev. I will share the link in chat. Cubecraft.dev. That's where you can find more information about the course. Hey, how difficult is it to run a server on an old Android phone? That's an interesting question. I am currently, I have not run any servers on Android phones myself, so I actually cannot really answer about this question. But we did have an interesting, we had a really interesting chat recently in the community. Maybe I should just leave my screen on actually, because I'm just constantly switching back and forth. But there is, what was it? A vape? Yeah, hosting a website on a vape. So we had this really cool discussion in the community about hosting things on smaller devices. So we found this blog from Bogdan the Geek, who is hosting a website on a vape. And I found that a really interesting challenge, a really interesting thing to do, to find like the smallest devices that you can find and then turn those into servers or run Kubernetes clusters. And then actually Chris here, Myrmidon, here, Chris here, he did a really cool experiment where he had, yeah, what are they called? They're like pocket PCs, like really small USB stick, which are actually like really small PCs. And he managed to turn that into a Kubernetes cluster. This was really cool. He did the full write-up on this. And I mean, this is the kind of stuff that goes on inside of the community, which is just so cool to me to see these kinds of projects going on. To get back to your question, how difficult is it to run that on an Android phone? Honestly, I don't know. I can't answer that question, but you should definitely go for it. I mean, Android is Linux, so it can be rocket science. Okay, what would you suggest for certification if one is looking to transition? I see on LinkedIn getting multiple certifications in multi-cloud. It's confusing where to start. Any suggestions? Thank you. Yeah. Well, like this is why KubeCraft exists, right? Like the pain of DevOps careers is it's just so painful in the beginning. You see all of these conflicting advice. Like you actually see people getting certifications in multiple clouds, and that is like the worst that you could do in the beginning. It's the worst idea. And yeah, like KubeCraft started because I was in exactly the same pain as you are now, and you're asking me this question. But I didn't have anyone to ask this to. Like you have me in a live stream that will answer your question. But this is why I created this, in order to help people with these problems, because this is a real problem. Like there are thousands of people out there who who want this job, who want a remote lifestyle. They want to be autonomous, right? Because that's what this life has given me. 5 years ago, I was working as a nurse. I had to work, I had to go to the hospital every single day. I had to show up at my at the hospital at a certain time. There was no freedom, because these hospitals, you have to work in strict schedules, right? You can't just have people coming and going. So you have to show up at a certain time. I had to do night shifts. I had to work evening shifts and night shifts. So my whole sleep rhythm was completely deregulated. And I was, because of that, I really hated my life. Like nursing, it was beautiful work, but I had to actually, it cost me so much energy to be there for the patients, because I wanted to do a good job, right? And I'm very introverted. Like this live stream, I need to recover 4 hours from this. And it was a beautiful work to have these patients thank me for the work that I did, like making their day a little bit better, but it completely drained me. And I was just exhausted. I did not want to have this life anymore. And now 5 years later, I am a senior DevOps engineer, Microsoft MVP, and I managed to create a life for myself that I want. Like, I work completely remote now. No office. I don't have to show up at clients. I don't take up clients who are requiring me to go into their office. I think that's complete bullshit. That you have to show up at offices 3 times a week. I'm much less productive that way, so I refuse it and I don't do it. I make much more money than I ever did, and all of that was because I made this career change. But I have a very high pain tolerance. I'm able to do work when I'm not getting any results. And to be frank, like, the average person is not cut out that way. Average people stay average because they cannot tolerate the pain of working at something without getting the results immediately. And when I was in this position where I hated my job, but all I wanted was a remote job, all I wanted was to have control over my own life. I wanted to be autonomous, to work remotely. In that pain, it was so hard for me. I had no one to ask. I had nowhere to go. I didn't have anyone to ask. And this is the reason why I created KubeCraft and why I help people and why I do these live streams every day. Because, back to your question, when you see people on LinkedIn getting multi-cloud certifications and maybe they're not even a DevOps engineer yet, that can confuse you. So the answer to that question is no, you should definitely not get multiple like certifications in multiple clouds. In the beginning, you need to focus. You need to hone down on certain skills, because the main focus for you in the beginning is to land the job, the first job. Later, you can expand into multiple clouds. But I made the same mistake. I was learning AWS and Azure because I thought that would make me, that I would increase the chances of my job, right? Well, I have more skills, so therefore I can do more jobs. That was my reasoning. It doesn't work that way, because even a senior engineer who works in both AWS and Azure has less depth of knowledge and experience than a senior engineer who has been only working with Azure. Like, by definition, in terms of hours worked in that cloud, you have more experience with it. Now, there's something to say for being a cloud agnostic, but that is something for a later stage. So in the beginning, focus on one cloud. The thing I admire about you, Misha, is your ultimate career switch from two distinct paths. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was hard work, but I hope my story can inspire others. The home lab is the way. It's insane how well it works for jobs. Yes, that's why we teach it in KubeCraft. Rohan, I was learning all on Udemy, but cannot use it in the real world and losing my interviews. What would you suggest? I was planning to join KubeCraft. Thanks. Yes, well, um, cool to hear that you're interested in joining, but the answer is, like, this is a typical case of tutorial hell, right? Like, nothing wrong with you, but most people, they think I want a DevOps job, so the solution to that problem is to only watch courses on Udemy and think that's enough. But what people don't understand is that you need more than just technical knowledge uh, to land a job. It's the tech framework that I teach, TECH: tools, experience, content, and human. And most people, they only focus on the tech skills, but they have no idea about the soft skills, how to get the experience on your CV, and all of that. This is why I built KubeCraft. It's a complete system that will help you with this. So you need to do more than just tech skills. That's the answer to this. Here's an interesting question. Do you think virtualization, Proxmox, is going to be replaced by Kubernetes, or will they coexist, and why? Very, very interesting question. Let me just have a drink of water before I go for that. How are we doing on time? 6:34. Okay. I got about 15, 20 minutes for me left in me. Keep those questions coming in the chat, guys. So I was at TalosCon. When was that? Friday, last week. I was at TalosCon, Talos Linux from Sidero, which is a secure out-of-the-box enterprise-grade Kubernetes distribution. And many of the talks here revolved around enterprises moving completely to Kubernetes and using that as a virtualization platform. This is a very interesting shift in the industry. We recently had a guest session with a senior cloud architect in KubeCraft. He is responsible for managing over $40 billion in cloud contracts and in the United States. And he did a Q&A with us in KubeCraft. Like, this is the level of experience that you get access to in KubeCraft. But he also mentioned that Kubernetes is the platform. It's becoming the platform. So VMware and other virtualization, Proxmox, these things are going to be replaced by Kubernetes in the long run. Will they coexist? Yes. I mean, not everything is going to move. There's still going to be companies that are that will be left behind, but Kubernetes is becoming the multifunctional platform for everything. So with KubeVirt, you can provision virtual machines on Kubernetes, right? And I got a Proxmox server. If you've seen my Minis forum video recently, I set that up as a Proxmox server. But actually, I'm just planning to turn that into a Talos node and use that with KubeVirt instead, because I hardly ever need to use virtual machines anyway. And I might as well just have it as a Kubernetes cluster. And in the once in a blue moon when I need a VM, I will try to use that with KubeVirt. That's my personal strategy, and I'm going to be playing around with that. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me see. Next question. How much does it cost to join and complete your program? Just you can go to kubecraft.dev and there will be more information there. What should I build on my home lab? What kind of projects? Yes, so like there is a full I have a full like library of projects that you can access in KubeCraft, but the kind of projects like you want to showcase your skills, right? But on the other hand, you also want to have it useful for yourself. So I recommend starting with a problem that you have in your own life, find a self-hosted application for that, and then try to run that and try to run it well and secure it. That is that is one of the best ways to do it, because then you keep it fun. Let's see. Why is Kubernetes the future? Interesting. That's a really cool username as well. Your soul whispers. Nice. Why is Kubernetes the future? So, well, I was already getting into that in the previous question, where Kubernetes is quickly becoming a platform in and of itself, right? So where you are um, where Kubernetes is now becoming a virtualization platform. That is huge because this will mean that big enterprises who have tons of virtual machines, like a lot of their complaints about moving to Kubernetes was, yes, we want Kubernetes, but we are still running everything on VMs. So we first have to containerize everything and then we can move to Kubernetes. That is a big job. Now, what you can do is you can actually lift and shift workloads that are running on virtual machines to Kubernetes on virtual machines on Kubernetes. So that is a completely new dynamic that is happening like maybe this past year is more up and coming. So even companies that are not containerized, they have containerized workloads, they are now able to run on Kubernetes. So why is Kubernetes the future? Well, XAI, Grok, is running on Kubernetes. ChatGPT is running on Kubernetes. Microsoft Azure, a lot of their services is running on Kubernetes. Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office, that runs on Kubernetes. And like, think about what that means. Like Microsoft, a multi-billion dollar company, is using their own Azure Kubernetes service to run services for their own cloud. Now, this should tell you something. This should tell you that if the cloud providers are using Kubernetes to run the clouds, then you know you're onto something. Like before it was Linux, and Kubernetes is Linux, of course. It's a layer on top of Linux. But Kubernetes is now used by the cloud companies to provide this infrastructure. So if they can use it, if the big AI companies are using it, why would Kubernetes not be the future? Like I'm on X a lot, and I'm tweeting these tweets where I say, hard pill to swallow, Kubernetes is the future. And I get these comments like, almost no company needs Kubernetes. It's just so delusional when people say that, because first, they don't know the data, but the reason they say that is because they are intimidated. They find Kubernetes intimidating, and they are usually they have outdated skill sets. They have probably been in the industry for 10, 15 years, and they have a comfortable six-figure salary, and they're coasting along for 2 hours a day, and they don't want to be bothered by learning some new technology, especially with Kubernetes, which has a false rumor that it's hard to learn. It's completely false. Kubernetes is not hard to learn. Kubernetes is not difficult to master. People just want to make it out that way. Kubernetes is easy. If you take the time, if you know Linux, and if you know how to work with an API, Kubernetes is freaking easy. Seriously, it's not hard to learn at all, but people won't put in the effort, and because they feel threatened and they're lazy. So why Kubernetes is the future? Well, my question is, why would it not be the future? Like, anyone in the chat who disagrees, please let me know. I'm happy to discuss this here, but like, I'm just gonna have to say it. If you're ignoring Kubernetes, you're an idiot. You're really an idiot. I saw this 3 years ago. I went all in on it, and I I make good money. I can get a job at any time I want. I get contracts, and this is why KubeCraft is called KubeCraft. Like, I teach the craft of the Kubernetes engineer, and we're landing jobs left, right, and center. Yeah, why are a lot of influencers on X and LinkedIn talk about Kubernetes as if it's an overkill in most cases? Because they don't understand Kubernetes. Like, people who say this, they don't understand Kubernetes. Like, I built an air-gapped environment for a Danish company that had, it was a very interesting case. They had like 2 government private clouds, like on-prem environments, and it needed to have an application on both of those networks. It was really weird. It was completely air-gapped, very difficult, but the only way that the best way that this could be done is to have a Git repo in each of those networks, have the Kubernetes cluster pull in the configuration with GitOps, and it worked perfectly. It was just running 2 containers, but having this pool-based configuration, it worked perfectly. And like the footprint of K3s is like 500 megabytes. Like people want to make it out like it's some sort of super beast that you have to control and it's really hard to learn, but it's not. It's easy. Kubernetes is freaking easy. I like this new Misha beast mode. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yes, I am starting to talk. I'm developing myself as a. Uh, I don't want to call myself an influencer, but I'm going to be less filtered. I want to show more of my personality and my thoughts because I think it's more real. And I'm glad you say that you like it. I'm planning to do more of this kind of this side of me. So I'm glad it's resonating. Uh, Let me see. I'm already a senior engineer and interested in the Home Lab course. Can I get access to it without joining the Career Accelerator community? No, you cannot. The course is a part of the curriculum, but like you say you're already a senior engineer, but interestingly, like 30%, 40% of the people in KubeCraft are already senior engineers. And and a lot of them, they are getting they want to upskill on Kubernetes, right? And then that's why they come to me, because they want to learn from someone who understands it, but also who understands to help them get further in the industry. So we don't just help beginners, we help seniors as well. Drew wrote a very interesting comment here. So to the point of I'm already a senior, but I just want the home lab course. Well, here's the answer to that. Drew Elliott, as a Linux user with decades of experience, starting with Red Hat and even compiling Gentoo on a Spark workstation, I've used countless distributions. While I've installed Arch dozens of times, your course offered something new. What I valued most was the thoughtful philosophy behind it. You encourage a deeper understanding of each tool, which challenged my habit of simply accepting default settings. Your course taught me the real value of tailoring my environment to my workflow rather than the other way around. It was a crucial lesson in making my tools truly my own. So when someone says, I'm already a senior, I just want that course, basically you are saying that you are finished learning and you just want to learn one specific thing. And that's simply not the case. Like there's always more to learn. And even people with 20 years, 2 decades of Linux experience pick out something from my teaching because I have certain approaches to it. Like my stuff is not the generic stuff that you see in LinkedIn. I go really deep and I teach you different mindsets. And this is why it's working so well, because people like it so much. So if you want to get the Home Lab course, join KubeCraft. Does passing CKA make you ready for work? What's your perspective? It does not make you ready for work in that sense. However, of all of the certifications, CKA is definitely a certification that is going to raise your value a lot. So if someone comes to if I would be hiring someone and they would have 2 Azure certificates, I mean, those are decent. That you need some skills for that, but it is theoretical knowledge. It doesn't mean that they have actually done the work. However, for a CKA, that's a time-pressured 2-hour exam where you are expected to solve hard questions using the command line only, editing text files with Vim in a pressured environment. And that tells me something about your skills, your ability to work under pressure, and your ability, how much you can manage Kubernetes. So I wouldn't say it by definition makes you ready for the job, but if you have a solid foundation in Linux, CKA, and some programming skills, then you have a very strong baseline for landing a job for sure. You are not picking questions from LinkedIn Live. Actually, that is right. I'm reading the Riverside chat, and apparently that is not syncing. So let's see if are there a couple of questions from LinkedIn? Oh, there are actually not many questions there. But there's one question: what resources to learn Kubernetes real-time scenarios? Um, don't really know what that means. What resources to learn Kubernetes real-time scenarios? Well, you can check out Killer Coda. That's really good. That is like live labs. You can use those for preparation um, for the certificates. Cool. I have a couple of questions in me, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. Let's see. I've heard Kubernetes is not the future because it's too complex for small teams. I mean, it depends what your team depends on and what you're running, right? And I mean, I don't think having a small team is a reason not to use Kubernetes. If you have, like, it's not hard to learn, guys. It completely depends on what you have to do. But saying Kubernetes is not the future because it cannot be managed by small teams is a ridiculous statement, because the world has more than just small teams. There are plenty of big teams out there that are thriving on Kubernetes. So it's not a reason why Kubernetes would not be the future. Let's see. Another question. What about X? Do I get any questions on X? I'm multi-streaming here, so I have no idea what's actually happening. Does X even have a chat? No, there's no chat there, or at least no people in that chat. Okay, so then I can just pick from Riverside. Uh, Aaron, does your course include any type of definite structure, or is it more open-ended where the primary way you learn is by jumping into different projects and sort of growing alongside the community? No, it's very structured. It's very structured. So there's a very clear roadmap, and it is systems-based. So people who are actually already in the community, they don't. We are rolling this out right now, but the the classroom is created in systems. So we have DevOps OS, Focus OS, Job Magnet OS, and Interview OS, HomeLab OS. So all of these different systems are what are going to be landing you your DevOps job in 2 to 20 weeks. So first you start with the onboarding, and we show you around what to do. Then there's the full roadmap that you walk through, and through in that roadmap you are guided through all of the systems and where to start. And so it's very structured. It's not just some random couple of projects. You will know exactly what to do at what point. And the the way I've set it up, like my teaching is different. It focuses on three pillars. It's standards, systems, support. So what you've seen now are the systems, but we also give you standards. And this is what most courses, they will teach you what to learn, but they never tell you when to stop learning, right? So Courses will tell you, learn Linux or roadmap, learn Linux. Yeah, but what does learning Linux actually mean? There's tons of books that you can do about Linux, but how do you know when you're actually done with that, right? Same for Kubernetes. Like, what does learning Kubernetes actually mean? How do you know when to stop learning and move on to the next thing? Well, those are the standards. So it's standard system support. So we'll tell you what to do at what time, very structured. And then there's the support. So there's live mentoring from me, myself, and other coaches. So whenever you get stuck, you just jump on a call with us and we help you right away. You're never stuck for more than 24 hours. What's your suggestion to some who have no programming experience like me? I have only network and sysadmin experience and wish to land a DevOps job. Well, suggestion is check out KubeCraft. That's first of all. But secondly, you already have sysadmin skills. So if you widen that out if you widen that with Kubernetes skills, that is the thing to do. Oh, oops, that was a different one. Where is it? What's your suggestion? Programming experience. There we go. You already have networking and sysadmin experience, and you wish to land a DevOps job. So you have a good foundation. Networking, sysadmin, extremely important. If you widen that with Kubernetes, and if you widen that with some Python programming, then you have a very solid foundation for a DevOps job. Cool. Thank you for that description and well said answer. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the good questions. All right, guys. Well, that's about it. What I had in me today. Thank you so much for joining this live stream today. Um, thank you for the questions. Again, if you want to get more of this kind of mentoring, I'm doing this 3 times a week in the community, live on calls, and answering questions every single day. So if you got anything, any value out of this, there's plenty more where that came from. Go to cubecraft.dev, check it out, and I'm going to be releasing a new YouTube video tomorrow. So check that out as well. For now, thank you for joining. All the best of luck on your career change, and I'll see you around. Have a good day, guys.